My name is Alexandra Begue, and I am an account academy executive at SAP Paris. I will become a global account manager in the service industry. So I'm super excited about it. But what is more exciting today is Gonzalo Benedit coming here and sharing his experience and tips and advice for us. So before starting this rendezvous, I would like to give a big thank to the people that helped me to organize this event. And I'm especially thinking about Mari, Fred, Matt, Randy, and all of my sales and pre-sales team who helped me to prepare these valuable questions, we hope. They're currently preparing a little surprise for the end of this rendezvous, and we all hope that you will like it. So, Gonzalo is a great leader. He has been working at SAP since more than 12 years now, and he had moved like 6 different roles, if I'm not mistaken, in 4 different geographies. So he has a very impressive background, very diverse, and that is the reason why we wanted to ask him today to share with us a lot of tips and advice on how to navigate a great career at SAP. We all know that SAP is a big company, international, really large and complex, and we would like to know a bit more on how to navigate our career as early talent in such a great company. Please, can you give me a warm welcome to Gonzalo? So we're super happy and honored to have you here today and be able to share with all of us your experiences and your insight on the business. So you're the Chief Operation Officer, and we're all working in sales, so it will be really interesting for us today to better understand what's going on behind the scene on the operation side, because it's really related to us, but we don't really, we need to know a bit more how related it is. So before starting this, I would like to know a bit more about your personality. Who is Gonzalo in the private life? How do you think and reflect in your daily life? So we prepared some would you rather questions. As the COO of EMEA, would you rather reduce costs or save time?
Save time, no way, yeah, absolutely.
Why would you rather save time?
The success of this company is measured on growth, right? So it's really about growing the company. It's not about reducing costs. It's about how are we more effective in growing every single business that we have, every single industry, every single solution, and we grow in every single industry, in every single geography. So we are mindful of costs, but the focus is really on growth. How can we be much more agile? How can we be much more effective in doing what we do?
So now I would like to know a bit more about your leadership. Would you rather cold call a customer or pursue a lead?
I think I would pursue a lead, right? If you look at the portfolio of SAP is impressive, right? And you're going to come across it. Probably you already came across this, and I think the stories we have to tell are so powerful. So I think if you have this opportunity showing up, so you can build a wonderful story to convince anybody.
Another question that is more relaxing, I would say. Would you rather give up bathing for 1 month or give up the internet for 1 month?
Oh, that's tough. I would not give up bathing for 1 month, no way, right? So I think internet, if I have no other choice, internet. I actually think that often it's inspiring to disconnect, right? And to think and to connect. One of the things that, and probably also would help in you getting to know a little bit more about me is, one of the things I love is really connecting with nature. And just, I don't know, go to the mountain where there is no signal, right? And just connect with the nature. I think that's inspiring. That's inspiring. That really brings you back to the essence of life, to the essence of who you are as a person too.
Now, in order to better understand your curiosity side, we would like to know, would you rather be the first person to explore a planet or be the inventor of a drug that cures a deadly disease?
I think the inventor of a drug. I see myself in my role as COO. So it's a lot about solving problems, right? It's a lot about addressing situations. I enjoyed the challenge of saying, hey, it's about putting you a challenge that would seem totally unachievable, unrealistic, and how you tackle that. So I guess I would rather go for the cure of a disease.
So challenger, leader.
Problem solver, yeah, I think it's about addressing solutions, right? So coming up with solutions to problems.
Would you rather go back to age 5 with everything you know now, or know everything now your future self will learn?
Now with what I would know in the future, I'm very intrigued about what's going to happen with artificial intelligence and machine learning, right? This is fascinating, and I'm very curious to know what's going to happen in the next few years. Even today, right? And I have to say it's a little bit of a mess. But you probably know the Amazon Echo device, right? Alexa, right? So we have one at home, and actually the one that uses it in the best way is my 5-year-old child, and he's connecting to Alexa and asking questions that would help him in doing the homework, right? It's like, when did that happen, right? Honestly, and it took him. So I told the kids, it's like, okay, guys, so set it up, right? And obviously, it took them 2 minutes to set it up, right? So give me your phone, right? So they downloaded the app, right? So they know all the passwords, right? So they were setting it up, and you would see the kids interacting with Alexa, right? So it's like, and again, that's just us, a simple family. Imagine what's going to come, and this is available to all of us, right? So for a couple of $100, imagine what's going to come in 5 years. So I think it's going to be amazing.
We saw also that on your LinkedIn profile that you're passionate about the protection of animals. So one question concerning animals. Would you rather be able to control animals but not humans with your mind, or be able to control electronics with your mind?
I really like animals as Rob. I love dogs, I love horses, and very much into animals. And I try to spend often time in the nature, as said, so eventually with horses, right? So I would actually hate to control an animal, because these spontaneous reactions that animals have, and how you get to connect, you kind of build a relationship with them, especially with dogs, but also with horses, right? So it's very unique. On the other hand, so being able to connect with devices, right? So being able to connect, to have a smarter car, to have a smarter appliances at home, to have a smarter audio system. That could be fun.
Also, I wanted to share with you the fact that I saw on your LinkedIn profile so many destinations. Like, you have worked in so many places, and that's really impressive. So I was wondering if you would rather get one free round international plane ticket every year, or fly domestic for free anytime.
Domestic is France or Argentina, so I wouldn't know. No, I guess international. I like the most, and probably by far, about my experience at SAP is having had the opportunity, as you said, to go and live around the world. Look at this, how many nationalities are just in this room. 2 weekends ago, Saturday, it was a Latino party, right? I live in France, so I'm Argentinian, so they say, well, the Latino party. But you would see in the room, so people from Sweden, Finland, Spain, Italy, Colombia, right? So from all over the world, and I love it. I think it's inspiring, right? It's getting to know the different cultures. This is a reality of our world. I look at my kids, and they go from Spanish to English to French in the blink of an eye. And to them, it's like, so what's the language you feel most comfortable with? For them, it's just they have the chip already, and they can switch from one to the other. So I think that's beautiful. And for them to see that the level of diversity they're having in the school they go to, that's very unique. And I think that, again, that's a reality of our world. So I feel I'm blessed because of that. So certainly go around the world.
Would you rather be fluent in all languages and never be able to travel the world, or be able to travel anywhere for a year but never be able to learn any languages?
I would love to be fluent in many more languages, yes.
And then not be able to travel?
I'll find my way, I don't know. Come on, cannot be like that, right? Yeah, it's part of connecting with people, and again, I think this is evolving so fast, right? So you, obviously your generations are so much more exposed to and earlier on, right, to learning new languages, and I think that's an incredible opportunity. How you're able to connect with people, to better understand their cultures. So I would love to know many more languages.
Okay, thank you for this section. Now we're moving to another section, which is behind the scenes. Okay. So the purpose of this section is to better understand your role as a COO and what's going on the sales operations side. So as you said, there's a lot of diversities in this room. We are 89 people from the Sales Academy, 33 from the Pre-Sales Academy. We're coming from more than 34 countries, if I'm not mistaken. So that's really impressive. But what I meant by this is when we all went back to our market units for the end of this fiscal year in 2016, we saw that there is one common thing. And this one common thing is about the last minute iteration our sales team are working on in order to get the deals in. So behind the scene, in the operation side, what's going on during this period of time? How do you prepare this period?
In our region, so Franco and the president, but I know it's valid for every other region across the globe. So this is probably one of the biggest challenges we have in the business. The linearity of our business is terrible. So we do 50% of the business just in Q4. Just in one quarter, we do 50% of the business, and which makes no sense, right? So this has nothing to do with any other business. And out of that, we do 50% of that, or 25% of the annual business, is done in 4 days, 5 days, maybe, right? So the volume of transactions is ridiculous. Now, where's that coming from? Is basically we trained our customers to behave that way. They know that, look, I know I have to wait. So you're gonna come with the best proposal you have very late in the year, right? So so I give you a call on and actually they would tell you, I'm fine. I'm available until 10 p.m. on the 31st. I'm available. No worries, no rush, right? So we don't have to rush. We get the best for everybody. I think the first thing is to teach our customers that, hey, they will get today the same conditions that they should be able to get today, the same conditions that they're going to get December the 31st, right? So they don't necessarily have to wait to get the same conditions. And this takes a lot of time, right? Because these customers have been our customers for many, many years. Now, the second topic is about simplifying many of our processes. The problem with that, I was at the Concur Ignite yesterday, right? And they were saying, so the moment the peak in the number of travel expenses being processed was also in the last week of the year, right? Actually, I think it was the Monday before Christmas Eve. And this was by far the day with the highest volume. Now, these guys, they managed to build a platform by means of which they can handle those peaks no matter what, right? So they have the capacity to process all that volume. At SAP, so what we're trying to do is, and Harmony, so what the project that Ken alluded to before, is part of that, is how do we build the capacity so that we can manage those variations, huge variations in volume. And this comes through simplification of the overall approval process, simplification of contracts. Today, that's pretty messy, right? So we have different contracts for every different cloud LOB, and we allow many changes to the contract. So those are two things that are taking place, on which I believe we made significant progress. In many cases, double the volume of transactions we manage in a quarter with the same amount of people. So yes, there is more pressure on a lot of these people, but in reality, so we became much more effective in simplifying those transactions.
How do you handle pressure during this period?
Pressure is always going to be there. It's important to make sure that the teams are focusing on doing the right things. If you have the right people looking after the right topics, and you know that these are experienced people that have done the job before, I don't think it helps to put much more pressure on the teams, right? And to be necessarily harsh on the teams. If you have a strong team, they are accountable. They know what they have to do. and you can rely on them, and sooner or later that will come. The other thing is, and which I really love about this company is, this is a company that gives everybody opportunities, right? So we can make mistakes. Everybody can make mistakes, right? So you will make mistakes. I made a lot of mistakes. You're going to mess it up. You're going to mess it up with a customer, with a deal. But tomorrow's going to be another day. So I guess from an emotional intelligence standpoint, more calm about and more confident about doing the right thing, and the results will come.
Thank you for this insight. We now feel more confident thanks to your advice. I would like to share another question with you. We all went to our market unit, as I said earlier, and we are currently experiencing for the first time the SAP culture of transition and preparation in the month of January. It is kind of a quiet period between the end of the year and the FCOM, and we were wondering behind the scenes what's going on the operation side.
So you get to Q4, December, super busy. It's been a tough year, right? So a lot to do, and then you say, well, we're almost there. We're gonna make it, right? And then, so December is crazy, and then, well, you wish that January is gonna come, and you will have a few days, and that's never gonna happen. So January is crazy. This year I told Frank, I need to take off a few days, please, Frank, just 2 days. I really need to disconnect. I need to take care of a few personal things, and I couldn't. So it was. I managed to take 3 hours, right? So to handle the most important things, but at the same time it's great, because what's happening is you're basically setting up how you're going to operate in this year, for instance, in 2017. You are defining who are the players you're going to put, how the team will stand up in the field, right? And who's going to do what. If you don't do it right, then you're going to start the match 1-0 below, right? So it's critical. And now, if you do it right, proper part of the battle is already won, right? And right before FCOM is that we're looking into how do you set the right go-to-market, the right sales motions? How to set the right quotas, the right territories? How do you minimize churn, right? So disruption in the accounts. How to make sure there is continuity in the customer engagements. So all of that has to happen in these few weeks. And EMEA has been, and fingers crossed, but has been pretty successful in the last several years. And to me, the key to that success relies on being able to leverage and capture opportunities all across geographies, industries, segments. So every single dimension of the business is contributing with the results. And that has a lot to do with having the right go-to-market, right? So if you have the right go-to-market, if you have the right teams in place, you're focusing on the right topics, well, it's much easier to win.
Now I have another answer, really interesting. At FCOM this year, we heard that some of the Q1 deals will be compensated at 150%. So why are these Q1 deals so much more valuable to the business as compared to the other times of the year?
It's a mix between tactic and strategy, right? So from a tactical standpoint, so we want to make sure that we get the focus on certain solutions or certain deals in certain times, certain moments in time where they can have a big impact for the company. In this particular case, so I guess it's more of a strategic nature, where to us as a company, basically, if you think about S4HANA and the acceleration we have on S4HANA, or if you think about analytics and all of the things that we're doing around analytics, so if we are able to demonstrate to the market the company's success is coming from those solutions, that's a very powerful message obviously to the market, and hopefully that would react in very positively in our shares. So basically, putting the spiffs is to make sure we get the right level of attention from the whole organization to really exploit these opportunities. As for HANA Cloud, this is at the very core of the future of our company. And this is why we have an accelerator on that, because again, we want to make sure that everybody's attention is on that. Everybody's attention is on building the future of our company. And the market is watching, right? So you know our share it's at an all-time high, right? So it has never been as high as it is today. The company has doubled the market capitalization in the last 5 years. So the expectations are super high as well, right? So if we have a strategy, then the market is watching to see if we are being able to to make that strategy real.
Now I would like to focus on the forecasting side. We had several rotations as Academy Accounts Executive on the field, and we got acclimated to this forecast practice on the field. I personally helped my manager to do the forecast for Q1 and Q4. I was impressed about the process, cascading process of forecasting. So I wanted to know a bit more about it. How does it work? Because you're getting the information at the end, but what is the process? How does it work?
So it's from the individual level, cascading all the way up until in the case of EMEA, until Frank, and then it's same happens if you go to Rob. It's complex because you have to rely on everybody, let's say, having a consistent criteria around. So what is a forecasted deal versus not? I can mostly speak for EMEA. So EMEA has been for many years a very stable organization, right? So you see a stable organization not just in the overall structure, but also at the individual level in people that have been doing that job for 4 or 5 years, right? And that means that there is a lot of consistency in the way they run a forecasting process. Because of that, so we are able to, we're a very predictable organization because we know exactly how to define the right numbers, so where it's going to land. So I can go back for 10 years, right? And I can tell you where we're going to land in Q1, Q2, based on the behavior of the pipeline. Because the beauty of the company is we have such a large organization that the big numbers speak very highly, right, and very loudly, and you can really predict what's going to happen with the business. But it's critical that at your level, at the individual level, so when you do a very conscious exercise on really assessing why this or that opportunity is to be forecasted or not. One of the challenges we had is very much related to some of the acquisitions, because so let's say Concur, SuccessFactors, or Ariba, many of the others, so companies that we've acquired in the last few years, these guys were running a completely different process. They were not talking about Forex, so the forecasting criteria was very different. So what's a probable versus a commit versus a most likely? So I think the challenge is to make sure that we have one single consistent way of doing forecasting. But it really starts at that very individual level.
Let's now talk about the present. Some of my colleagues, Kenta, Sakshi, and Ray, want to talk to you a bit more about early talent and their career at SAP. So we would like to get some tips and advice from you on how to exceed, how to excel, and how to succeed in such a great company. It's an international company, really complex, and we know that you had a lot of diverse roles in this company. So we would like to know a bit more from your experiences. We're going to talk about how to keep an open mind, how to get inspired, and how to make the difference. Sakshi is going to handle the first part with keep an open mind.
Thank you for joining us. It's a pleasure to have you here and to learn from your experience. So as Alex mentioned, we know that you have this great place in your heart for the early talents, and whenever you get a chance, you talk to them and guide them on different aspects. So we read from your LinkedIn profile that from your recent visit to Paris, we observed that you wrote a recent article based upon your interaction with the early talent in Paris that you had. And the 3 tips that Alex mentioned were the 3 tips that you mentioned in the article. So I'll be talking to you about keeping an open mind. So before I start, a little about myself. I'm Sakshi Jain. I'll be joining SAP India team as part of services sales. And I know that you have been part of services also, so it'll be great to learn more about it. Now, before I start, I would like to understand what's your take on keeping an open mind. So we know that everyone who will listen about this term will feel that, okay, we know something about it, but howsoever seemingly simple this term is, it is not actually that simple. Because when it comes to practice, it's really difficult. And since we all will be transitioning into our roles within in less than a month, so I guess it will be very important for us to understand what do you actually mean by an open mind.
So I guess it's 2 main things that come to my mind as it relates to keeping an open mind. So the first one is you never stop learning, right? So to me, it's constantly challenging you intellectually on what you need to know, right? So I was not talking about artificial intelligence 2-3 years ago. Now, I need to say something to customers, right? Machine learning, so I have to be prepared. That level of curiosity, right, in terms of learning, and learning not just about the new trends or the new technologies, but really learning about people, right? So learning about you guys. So what are you doing here? So how is it going for you? How can we help you better? So how is the process? How are you getting started, and how are you getting prepared for the next challenge? The other thing, and I was actually, to a good extent, relating to that in the article, was when I look back so I've joined SAP, as I said, 12 years ago. It's going to be 13 in a few months, and the big, so what I've told you, I've started as a value engineer, but then I've done a bunch of things, right? And honestly, it was. I look back and I always say, well, it kind of was always by accident, right? So it was never truly planned, right? I knew I wanted to grow, but I guess so being open-minded in terms of trying new things, of getting to know myself, where could I have an impact? So what is it? Sales? Honestly, when I started, I'm not a sales guy. I'm more of a content guy. I don't feel like, but then you realize that actually, if you look at sales, it's a lot about trust. So if you have content and you're able to build intimacy with people, right, and to build relationship, well, that's actually very good for sales. And in my view, so that's one of the pillars of being successful in sales is trust, is being able to build trust with your customers. So I think you are at the point in your career, so getting started, right? So many of you have left school very recently, right? So where I think it's critical that again, my advice, it's not guidance, just my experience, is try to get to know yourself by trying different things. It's a time in your career where you have to try, and you have to try if it's going to be sales, it's going to be pre-sales, maybe consulting, maybe, and this is where SAP becomes fantastic because you have so many things to do, right? So the portfolio is so vast, the global presence is so unique, the industry coverage is also it's so deep that you have many opportunities that you could potentially go after.
That's great to hear, and extending to that only, as you said that you have been transitioning into various roles. We know that you had transitioned from VP of operations into a sales role, and what you mentioned in the article was something that it is very close professional and personal experience for you, because that transition was something not planned, as you said. So what was something like an important takeaway from such a transition and working into sales that you considered it as the most professional and personal rewarding experience to you?
That was probably one of the biggest challenges I had, because I think in the other steps in my career, so there were gradual evolutions on something that was to a certain extent my comfort zone, right? So there was always a stretch on a strong core, but moving to sales to me was like, again, and I was kind of wondering if I would do well in sales, right? So. But again, I guess it's going back to what I said before. I really focus on trust, and I had this one mentor that really inspired me throughout a long time in my career. That told me just focus on that. Build trust with your team. Build trust with your customers, and that pays off. So there's those little things, right? So if you manage the details, right? So if you speak the language of your customers, if you let them know that you truly care about their businesses, right? That you understand their businesses, they will trust you. They will rely on you, and you will become an advisor. It takes time, but I think it's eventually you can also sell in a different way. You can also be super convincing and cut a deal, but building a long-term relationship with the customer. It's about trust, and when trust is in place, look at Bill. Bill is probably one of the best examples, right? So globally, and customers love him. They love him because he's so empathetic with customers that customers and while you never get tired of listening to him, right? Because he could be so inspirational. you would be impressed on to which extent. So he gets into a meeting with the CEO, and he's listening. And he's listening with a level of details that's like, wow, Bill he's an important guy, right? And he's seen quite a few things, and he's listening to this guy that has a small business maybe, right? And look, it's a good business but a small one, and he's trying to understand how could SAP help them. So yes, it was a big challenge, but look, if you focus on doing the right thing, it ended up being an incredible experience, and then you learn.
I guess it is something very important to learn, because whenever we think about open mind, we think only from the internal perspective, but as you mentioned, even from the customer perspective, it is an important point, and you can have a better relationship and a deal with it. So I guess the next question of mine will be that whenever you start anything new with such an open mind, there is an apprehension always associated with it, that what if the role doesn't work for me, or what if I'm not able to perform? So that negative outcomes that you have, so what has been your approach to handle those negative outcomes and cut them short in the very beginning and focus on what you're doing, like right there?
Look, it's never that terrible. I think we kind of overreact to problems and to mistakes. And look, when I was I guess younger, so every little problem was a big problem, right? And I wanted to control everything, and I wanted everything to go perfect. And well, I keep on focusing a lot on the details, but then you realize that problems and mistakes and those kind of things will happen, right? And they will come. So as long as you learn from that experience, as long as you really do a deep dive into understanding why did that happen, how do I prevent that from happening in the future? But I think you are at the point in your career where you should. If I were you, you should take risk. You should assume risk. This is time in your life when you can truly do that, right? And so that again you will get to know yourself. This is time to aspire, go high. So I wouldn't be scared at all of making mistakes. Joel was referring to that, and I totally agree. So tough situations, complex situations, mistakes are by far the biggest teacher. Bill Gates always says, you probably heard him, he says, success is a very lousy teacher. And he's totally right. Success is, so you could become complacent, right? So you can become overconfident, and that does not help. So also Bill says often, stay hungry, stay humble. And I think that's the key to success. Leverage them and ensure that you take the lessons out of those.
I guess that's great for us to keep that learning attitude, be hungry every time, and taking that risk at this level will be a good way to tackle all those negative things.
I was talking to somebody during the break, so a lady called Clara in Italy, right? And that she was saying, actually with another guy also that came from the Business Academy, and I remember, so probably a year ago already, so they wanted to. They were going to present the digital boardroom to a customer, right? And talking about taking risks, right? And so they were challenging the account team. And the account team, they have been there doing the job for a long time, right? And so you're going to tell us how to manage this customer now? So what did you get right? So you're getting started, right? So listen and watch, right? And the guys coming, so Clara and Marco were saying, no. So let's try this, or let's try that. It's like, no, I don't think so. So we know what do we have to do, right? Well, long story short, the senior guy told them, okay, I'll give you one chance, but I don't think it's going to work. But I'll give you one chance. So let's see how it goes. Good luck with that. And he left, right? And then they were presenting the digital boardroom to a customer. Now they came to the customer meeting, and the whole experience was totally different from what we do usually, right? So totally different. In 3 minutes, the customer was super engaged. Wow, you can do this, and you can show me more. So the senior AE was like, yeah, you see, we've done that simple example. All of a sudden, became a whole energy that so transformed the way we do, for instance, pre-sales in Italy, right? And the way these guys are respected when they raise their hands. So this is where I see you would have an incredible role, right? So in terms of not just what you do as individuals and the impact you would have with your customers, but to the extent to which you can become this this force of change. The way I see this, guys, you are not just, so you can rejuvenate, and this is what I think SAP needs. You can rejuvenate completely this organization. Because the other guys will realize, I am probably one of the other guys, right? So we will realize, right? So to which extent we can do things so differently. We've been, and again, success is a lousy teacher. We've been doing things, in particular in EMEA, in a very consistent way. And guess what? We've been pretty successful. So in a way you wonder, so should I really change? Well, reality is we have to change. Because we are in this industry that we're forced to change. So I think you are very typically, when I work with your peers in the field, you're very vocal. So keep that confidence, keep being vocal, and take risk and change the game.
I guess definitely we are gonna go ahead with our careers and start right after Academy with this outlook that you suggested. It was really of great help, and I guess now when we are done with the open mind and we learned about it, it's time to move on to the next seemingly simple but not actually simple topic, which is getting inspired. And I guess my friend Drake will take care of that.
For those of you who do not know me, my name is Ray Blau, and I represent the Pre-Sales Academy. Once I complete the Academy, I'll be part of the CEC team here in North America. We first want to know, Gonzalo, how was your FCOM?
I wish we could have been able to share the results because unfortunately we're in quiet period, so actually we can still not share the results. FCOM Barcelona, we've been doing that for quite a few years in EMEA. And there is one thing for those of you that, I don't know if you know, Frank Cohen is a regional president for EMEA and EMEA now, right? And so he has this very special, always, keynote that he does that has become crazy these last years, right? And so he's been preparing this he prepares this for 2 months. So while we're in the middle of the craziness of Q4, November, December, I happen to, my office it's right next to him. So we go for lunch often, and he's coming up with ideas, and so this one was very fun. He came up dressed like a magician, right? And so it was like taking rabbits out. Very energizing to go to FCOM and see how big you are. You had so 6, and I know that the Vegas was probably even larger, but 6,000 people from so many market units, and you feel the kind of the muscle of what's behind this incredible company. So yeah, I'm excited.
It so happens that all of our associates experienced our first FCOM. As a matter of fact, I'm sure I could speak for everyone here. After experiencing that, we are pumped and motivated to rock it in 2017. Am I right? So Gonzalo, in this segment of your article, you talk about getting inspired and being motivated. And you talk about how someone should identify what motivates them and then choose opportunities that closely align to what motivates them. Yeah. And in order to seize those opportunities, a mentorship would be important. My first question to you, what motivates you?
So I guess the thing that motivates me the most is, well, there's 2 things I would highlight. So one is a team, building a team. I realized that after doing having so many different roles in services, as an MD, as a COO, what really motivates me is building a team. I find it fascinating to kind of understand who's best at what, right? And so trying to understand the CEO organization now is a very diverse organization, right? So you have topics, I don't know, you look after topics like pre-sales or marketing, and then we have 8 different sales LOBs, and you really need to, for each of those roles, you need very different profiles, right? And it's on the one hand, so it's building that team, but also and picking the right individuals to lead each of the different organizations. But at the same time, is how do they operate as an orchestra, right? As a team. So that's one I really enjoy, and I spend a lot of time in supporting my team, in developing, in looking for other opportunities, in hiring, actually in interviewing out there in the market. I think it's a great way of learning what's happening in the market and getting to know great talent. And the other thing is that motivates me is it's a sense of achievement, and not just at the individual level, but also as an organization. The sense of achievement, the sense of winning, being part of a winning organization. And yes, obviously, so from a sales standpoint on the peer results, but also in terms of how do we transform the team. and how do we transform the business. So one of the things that we've done this year is we said, well, we have to redefine completely the way we do demos, right? Because again, in many cases it was old school way of doing demos. So we're focusing very much on the meeting, but not so much on the journey, right? And so in terms of what happens before the meeting, how do we maximize engagement in the meeting, and what we do, how do we keep that engagement beyond the meeting? The power of what you can do, right? And so what you can achieve. And I think this is also something great about SAP, that it gives you the whole empowerment and the support to go for that change. I think that's something that really motivates me.
So you talked about in your article how you had the great fortune of working with amazing mentors who've inspired you. And you talked about a mentor earlier. How can us young talent approach someone who inspires us and agree to have them be our mentor?
To me, it was an incredible experience. And I would, guys, if you don't have a mentor today, I would strongly encourage you to look for a mentor. And it's not just a mentor that would, let's say, would be a coach on a weekly basis on how to manage certain situations. But to me, the way I looked at it was somebody that would inspire me. Somebody that's like, well, I would love to become that person. So that somebody that represents you as well. Try to get somebody that is somehow close to you, right? So not somebody with whom you can build a longer term relationship, but look into somebody that is a few steps above you, right? So somebody that has done it and that can spend quality time with you. And just as Rob was saying, just knock at the door. 2:30 a.m. I was having a conversation. Actually, it was a talent review where we were looking for, so within EMEA, top 30 young talents, and trying to understand who would be the right mentor for those people, right? And guys, I think this is a critical step in your career, especially at this stage. Look for that right mentor, that person that inspires you, and I'm sure that they will be fine to do the job.
One last question, Gonzalo. We're hungry learners, and we're most likely avid readers. Can you recommend any of your favorite books for professional or personal development?
I read a lot of white papers, actually, more than books. I like the idea of so I print my white papers out of Harvard's Review or McKinsey, right? And so every time I take a flight, I have 2 or 3 I look after, right? I go through. I really enjoy reading about is decision making, right? And it's interesting because that started pretty early on in my career. Now I look at what's happening with, going back to machine learning, artificial intelligence, robotics, right? And to which extent decision making is becoming so critical, the whole theory of decision making. So again, that's something I spent quite some time on. So I think it could be something interesting for you as it has a lot to do with many of the new technologies. It represents a lot of the dilemmas that are coming with the new technologies.
Great. Thank you very much, Gonzalo, for your time, and I hope everyone gained some insight from that section. The next part of this interview is going to be held by my colleague Kenta, who will be talking about setting the mind to make a difference.
My name is Kenta Kelleher. I will become an industry AE at SAP Japan for Upper GB after I graduate the Sales Academy. In the LinkedIn article that we've been talking about, your third and final point was setting your mind to making a difference and then doing it. Now, specifically, you talked about working hard, showing up with a great attitude, and being prepared. So my first question to you is, why do you personally strive to make a difference every day?
The theme at Concur was right here, right now. We can decide what to do, what kind of life we want to have. And look, I made my decision about staying at SAP. I like what I do. I like what this company represents. I fundamentally like the people I work with, right? And the kind of talent that it's there, not just the talent, but the person, right? The quality of people that we have in this company. What I like the most about being part of SAP is that you can truly make a difference in somebody's life and or to somebody's business. And this is what I always try to focus on. It's like, what's my added value, right? So what am I here for? What do I represent? If we're not making a difference, honestly, it's not fun. It's not exciting. One of my objectives is to hopefully make a difference in supporting the next generations to grow in their careers, right? To find the right opportunities to further develop their careers. But again, it goes to every single angle. I think, again, SAP is an incredible platform for that, because it's not just about the businesses or the talent, it's actually even about the society, how we can make an impact in the societies.
So my next question is, so Rob talked a little bit about managing his work life as well as personal life. So are the approaches that you take to make a difference different in your personal life compared to your work life?
So some people say, well, if you're an executive, so your life is crazy, it's insane, you sleep 4 hours a day. It's like, well, yesterday I didn't sleep, but that was an exception. That's not always the case. Look, I think it's as Rob said, you have to find the balance. I always have my own resolutions, right? I guess like all of you. So I start my year. It's funny. So how my year starts, it's always the same way. So the day January 1st. So I go for a very long run, and then I sit down to do my resolutions, and I love that. And it's typically it goes both from a professional and a personal standpoint. And I try to be very respectful of that balance. I think, but you have to be comfortable with that, right? So there's always going to be long days. There's always going to be topics. So being out of home on a trip, but look, it's you have to be comfortable with that balance. If you have an issue so one thing is work and another thing is life, I don't think that's sustainable. To me, my work is my life. It's part of my life, right? It's not all of it, right? But I have my kids and I enjoy what I do, and I have a bunch of other things, and I love running, and that's not my work. But I don't see necessarily a contradiction between one and the other. This is an essential piece of what I am, of what I do, what I like.
So it seems like you have some core values that stay the same between your personal life and your work life then. And then my final question to you is, this is for all of us here. How can we influence those around us to help us make a difference? Obviously in the article you mentioned, as individuals we can work hard, show up with a great attitude, but how can we influence those around us to really make a difference with us?
There are plenty of examples where you're really changing the game, and you're at a very unique spot, right? In your lives, in your careers, where you can be. The energy that comes across of this team is just fantastic, right? So it's really inspiring to see many of the people that have gone through this before, through the academy before, and how they are already being successful in the field, and it's contagious. So my advice would be, guys, remain very confident and be yourself and go challenge the status quo, because yes, this company has been very successful, but I am absolutely convinced that what made us successful until now is not the recipe to be successful in the future. There is a guy that says, so I was saying, so there is only one certainty, and that's change, right? So, and that applies to our business more than every other business. So be yourself, challenge the status quo, challenge the way we do things, right? So and make sure that if you do it right, so I think you will be able to have a massive impact that's going to be multiplied across the whole organization.
Thank you so much for your answer and for all your insights. I think I can speak for everyone here by saying that I think we were all very inspired to keep an open mind, have inspiration, and also setting ourselves to making a difference. So now I'll pass it off to Alex again, who will finish it off.
Do you have any questions?
Hi, I'm Paul Garcia, part of the Sales Academy for France. My question for you is, SAP is a sales organization driven by numbers. Some of my colleagues and myself are going to go out and sell S/4HANA Cloud. We know that it's a new product, and for the first months or maybe years, its numbers are going to be very low. Do you have other KPIs to measure success?
If you're in sales, success is varied, right? So bookings, so that's clear. Now, obviously, we realize that in many cases, so if the solution is not ready, so there's a bunch of other things to do, like enablement, like generated pipeline, right? So like doing a bunch of things that are basically preparing the grounds for us to be successful. Now, if it's not sales, there's a bunch of other, so pre-sales, if you're in pre-sales, there is also many other metrics. As it relates specifically to S/4HANA Cloud, I think the success is going to come when we have, and this is something we're basically facing today with S/4HANA, so not the cloud edition, but the on-premise edition, is to have very strong, powerful reference cases that we can refer to, right? If the company is now focusing a lot of energy and time and resources into securing that we have, before Sapphire, enough powerful references by industry, by geography, for everything, so that the whole story around S4 becomes so much relevant, right? And the same thing is valid for S4HANA Cloud. This is, as said before, this is one of the big pillars of the future of our company. This is one of the pets of Mr. Hasso-Plattner, right? So he's really looking after this baby on a very regular basis, and look, I think it's the right spot to be. I think this is the future and the success for that solution is pretty much guaranteed. So.
And I noticed you were mentioning a lot of stuff about Concur, so I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit more about how you're planning on integrating those LOBs into SAP as a whole.
I was for 2 days in Seattle yesterday and the day before, and I was so energized. It's fascinating. This is an incredible company. This is an incredible acquisition that the company made, and if you look at the integration and to which extent we're leveraging, so the leveraging from each other, we've only touched the surface, right? And there is very little that we have actually done. So we've done, so what we've done with specifically with Concur is this year, and that we believe that's going to work hopefully very nicely, is we've completely aligned the go-to-markets, right? So if you look at so they had a specific go-to-market and segmentation that was very different from what we have at SAP. Now we've pretty much mirrored the go-to-market. So basically there's going to be a specialist around supporting each of the different industries. And if you look at going to a question, so beyond that, actually this is what we have seen working very nicely for the other LOBs. So how do we connect the SAP go-to-market whose main dimension basically is, of the predominant dimension is the industries with the different LOBs, so that, and Rob was saying this, so we go, so the core dimension of the go-to-market is by industry, but then we are able to pitch the different solutions, but we have an end-to-end story for every industry. We can pitch an end-to-end story for a retailer, for an organization in the public sector, and we've done this already with Ariba, we've done this already with SuccessFactors, with HEC. I think there's some room to improve for improvement in terms of the whole CEC suite, but we're much better than last year, and we're making this. Actually, we've changed this for Concur this year. So I think that's going to pay off big time, because it speaks highly about the overall consistency of our world strategy, and nobody is in a position like SAP where we can offer an end-to-end suite for each and every one of the 25 industries we cover.
Thank you, Gonzalo.